Happy New Year. I, for one, am excited for 2023. One-party rule in Washington is ending and accountability is coming. Here's to wishing you and your families health, happiness, and prosperity.
State taxpayers who filed individual tax returns will see $250, and those who filed jointly or as head of households will see $500. There is no income limit for those receiving the final rebate. Those who filed a 2021 tax return do not need to do anything to receive their payment. Payments will come in the form of a direct deposit or by check, whichever was chosen on your tax return. However, those who did not file a tax return and did not file to receive the rebate payments will need to file a 2021 tax return with the state to be eligible for the rebate. The deadline to file a return is May of 2023. These state refunds are not so different from the stimulus payments the federal government sent out in 2020 and 2021. July's Consumer Price Index report finally showed a sign of potential relief. Inflation ticked up less than expected from a year ago and was flat on the month, meaning that a basket of items and services generally stayed the same price, but some items have fallen on a monthly and weekly basis, potentially signaling that inflation has passed its peak and may be cooling off. This is a welcome news to consumers who've been squealed by higher prices and are looking for any sign of relief. Some of the top items whose prices have come down include eggs, milk, and gas. Everybody, there's some big news for the Social Security benefits, SSI, and SSDI. So folks, a huge monthly benefit increase can be expected for many people. Be sure to watch until the end to learn how to receive it. Here is some big news for millions of Americans. The Social Security increase coming in 2023 will be one of the largest ever. Mary Johnson, a Social Security policy analyst for the Senior Citizens League, a nonprofit group, told reporters this will be one of the highest cost of living increases ever paid in history of the program. The increases are meant to help seniors and other Social Security beneficiaries keep pace with rising prices. With inflation at its highest point in decades, the increase for 2023 will certainly be large. Just how large won't be known until the fall, when the SSA announces the final figure. The hike will then take effect in January. The Senior Citizens League estimates the adjustment could be around 9.6% if inflation continues at a similar pace. If things get hotter, the hike could rise to over 10%. A bit cooler, and the increase could fall in the 8% range to 9% range. A separate recent analysis from the nonprofit committee for responsible federal budget found next year's hike could be as high as 10.8%. If things cool off, checks could jump 7.9%. Social Security recipients got a 5.9% cost of living increase in 2022, the biggest in decades. Even if seniors get a substantial raise this year, it's likely going to be wiped out by increasing housing costs. And Medicare expenses have also been rising steadily, further eroding the ability of the increases to help recipients keep up with the rising prices elsewhere. Historically, the raises have not done a great job keeping up with the actual cost the increases seniors have faced. Even with annual increases, Social Security benefits have lost roughly 40% of their buying power since 2000. And during a meeting today, Joe Manchin said that the Democrats were forced to narrow a key provision of the recently enacted Inflation Reduction Act. Manchin, tying the benefits of his new law of West Virginia and an event in his home state, suggested that the finalized version of the bill should have included more aggressive prescription pricing provisions.
In 2020 and 2021, we did the same thing on the upside. We never had a market double off the low as fast as it did. So obviously, there's a bit of a whipsaw effect. And I wonder what the indicators are telling you in terms of how the real economy is going to perform through this when it comes to things like consumers having more of a cushion than they have in the past. You look at things like the senior loan survey and whether, in fact, banks are willing to finance growth from here. How does that shake out at this point?
Mike, I really think we have to separate the economy and the market. But again, it goes back to what is the Fed going to do from here, right? They're raising interest rates. In 2020, my mistake coming up, I think we did a good job of looking at the low on all the extremes like we had in June of this year. And then I kept calling for a retest initially, even though, and what caused us to shift from there was when the Fed announced they were buying high yield corporate debt on April 9th. We called it a game-changing decision. But by then, the market had ripped. So I was wrong at that point. It's different we've had this call for the fall since really the early spring, because the Fed is still raising rates, and that's the difference on a test. When you look at a test of the low, to me, any momentum shift, I am respectful of the market momentum. Any momentum shift, however, where it was a sustainable low and a real V bottom, every time I could find it, it came with an E, not just a Fed that stopped raising rates as much, but an actual easier Fed. So we're in between here.
Yeah, we are actually making new lows here for this session, down more than 900 on the Dow, more than 3% on the S&P 500. So down below those kind of previous August lows in the S&P that we had been watching for a bit, down 3.7%.
Action is being taken this week. Millions of people are eligible to claim extra financial assistance from the government. Congress has launched several new programs to help low-income households dealing with high bills. The Illinois governor has signed off on a variety of measures to help families. This includes $50 tax rebates to all individuals who made less than $200,000 in 2021 and $100 for couples earning less than $400,000. Taxpayers will also receive $100 per dependent, up to 3 dependents. Homeowners are getting a tax break, and the state is providing property tax rebates for eligible homeowners earning less than $250,000 for individuals or $500,000 couples for couples filing jointly. Residents will receive this rebate and a tax rebate automatically. Chicago residents can also begin accessing a new financial program which is aimed at easing the cost of travel. The initiative, introduced by the Chicago mayor, will provide tens of thousands of prepaid gas and public transit cards. There will be 50,000 gas cards worth $150 each and a further 100,000 public transit cards with $50 preloaded offered to city residents. As the nation swelters through a summer filled with record high temperatures, the Biden administration is unveiling a new set of actions to intended help Americans with the extreme heat. Today, the federal government launched the heat.gov, a website that promotes planning and preparedness for the extreme heat waves made more frequent because of climate change. The website provides data tools for the following extreme heat advisories and links to resources from local government officials. As summer temperatures have steadily risen in recent decades, air conditioning costs have also sharply increased, with more than 44 million Americans living in areas under an extreme heat warning. The White House announced a set of actions to defray those costs and boost solar power to ensure the increased demand for electricity. As part of Wednesday's package for announcements, the Department of Energy unveiled moves to expand and diversify the solar manufacturing and installation workforce through apprenticeships and other training programs. Climate change this summer is causing more frequent and severe heat waves at times in the last 2 months. As many as 200 million Americans have found themselves living under advisories. Last week, cities across the countries with temperatures over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Taking aim at stubborn inflation, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates for a 4th time this year.
We are not in a quorum call.
Then we should not vitiate it.
All right.
Mr. President, my understanding is that the so-called Inflation Reduction Act may be coming to the floor in the coming days. And there are some people who think this bill is worth supporting. There are others who think that it is not. But whatever your views on this bill may be, let us be clear. As currently written, this is an extremely modest piece of legislation that does virtually nothing to address the enormous crises that working families all across this country are facing today.